You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. It is Thursday. It is time to rock out with everyone's favorite. I know it's my favorite. Hopefully it's your favorite. I think it's the only bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yep, it's time for the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Radio Network. Podcasting since before there was a freaking iPhone. You had to have an RSS reader to get it. Kind of crazy to launch back then, but we did it. And 19 plus years later, still going strong and indeed growing. Make sure you're subscribed to the full network wherever you get this. And of course, if you want a little bit of extra fun sprinkled on top, awesome pro Q&As, live streams, live trading, unusual activity, some pretty sweet giveaways, and some awesome exclusives like Vol Death matches and everything. I guarantee you, you're not going to find a Vol Death match anywhere else. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. Of course, given yesterday's discussion and our pro Q&A earlier this week from Fidelity, we might have to have a wheel death match between Dan Passarelli and the folks over there at Fidelity. Going head to head. Should be interesting. Wheel death match. I might be down for that. Let's see who we're down to talk to today. First, the globe traveler and conference man extraordinaire. I hear he's the hit with all the kids on Twitter these days. They can't get enough of his state of the industry. None other than the Flowmaster himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe. I could say I knew him back when, pre-Flowmaster days. That's how early it was. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back to the show. How goes your global conference travel schedule, sir?
Things are good. I just got back last night from the Cboe Risk Management Conference in Nashville, and then we have the Options Industry Conference coming up in early May. And then there was something else. I don't even remember what it was, but I get around. And actually, as soon as I got back, that I did an internal version of this State of the Industry, but it was great conference. There's just so much going on. The Risk Management Conference, this is actually the 40th year. I did actually get to sit next to Dr. VIX during a few of the panels. So we were comparing some notes. But it's really kind of an amazing time. In fact, there was a panel that a hedge fund trader was asked about something, and he said, well, this is kind of the golden age for derivatives trading. And I thought about that. I'm like, we're always talking about how it's such a great time to be a customer, but when we're having days, that are 75, 85, 100 million contracts, and there's so much going on in the way of new products and ETFs making use of options and, the zero DTE developments and how that kind of is evolving. And then even today, there's actually a roundtable taking place in Washington, D.C. with a whole bunch of our market participants talking about market structure. That one's actually being broadcast on SEC.gov. If anybody's interested, I think there'll probably be replays too. But all of the kind of top brass from exchanges and liquidity firms and brokers talking kind of about how this market is operating and what we can do to make sure things continue to get better and we don't kind of go off the rails. So it's been great, and happy to be here as well.
Might be too late. We might already be off the rails. We shall see as we go on now to the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw. Welcome back to you as well, sir.
Always happy to be here. And I think, teaser alert, I might have an exciting announcement in the trading block.
Our chat is already saying it for you in the chat. So let's just get there. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world of options out there, what's lighting up our tape today. And as Uncle Mike alluded to, it is a wee bit green, even though not quite as green as it was a little bit earlier in the session. But still, if you're a bull, if you're in the Uncle Mike cabal, you've had a good week or so out there in these markets. It's been absolutely wild, the amount of upside that kicked off. Literally the second they said ceasefire. It's almost as if the only thing depressing the market was the literal dropping of bombs. Once the dropping of bombs, and I get it, war, terrible thing, high degree of uncertainty, that certainly was weighing on the market. But every other issue that popped up during the war, push it aside. It's time to buy with both hands. North of 7,000 in the S&P as we're kicking off this show. How wild is that? We were just talking about 6,300 in the other direction not too long ago, listeners, and here we are. Nigh on 700 handles north of that. S&P up about 0.1% today. The Dow flirting with unched, and the NASDAQ up about 0.25%. I guess it is possible for buyers to finally maybe exhaust themselves. We'll see. Maybe they're taking a pause and then doing another leg higher. As we kicked off the show, VIX at an 18.75, down about 0.75 point. And of course, from its apex in the cash during the height of the conflict, cut nearly in half. We were right around the 30 handle for a little bit there. So 18.75, vol has come back to earth again. Nothing to see here. No concerns at all facing the market. Take all that vol and put a bullet in it. VIX at the par strike, down about 6 points from where it was on the Monday show. A lot of fun. I'm going to tease Uncle Mike for a second. I'm going to make him wait because I'm going to go to the Flowmaster. We're going to do your RMC recap because I want to get there. We're going to do that in a second. But first, let's kick things off. Let's make Uncle Mike wait a little bit. What are your thoughts on, first off, it's got to be surprising to you to come to the show on a Thursday and we're not blood red. This is the first time in over a month that has not been the case. So that's wild in and of itself. And then B, what are your thoughts on this absolutely explosive upside we've seen since your last appearance, sir?
Well, wait, isn't it the case that last Thursday when I was not on, we were also green? So maybe it's me.
Oh, we might have been. We might have been. You're right. I think that was after the ceasefire. So you're correct. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm looking at. I won't steal Mike's thunder, but I'm looking. We were up 12 of the last 13 days, and you're right. We're up almost 700 handles in SPX from the bottom. This actually was a topic at RMC because on Tuesday was the lowest put call that SPX has seen in about 10 years. Okay, SPX is a hedging product primarily, right? People come in and they buy puts, and sometimes they sell calls, and that's generally how it works. The average put call in there is around 1.5. Okay, so to see, we saw 2 days in a row, but the put call was 0.92 on Tuesday, freakishly low. The market wide put call was also at one of the lowest. So people, the discussion at RMC really was about how hedges had come off. We kind of went from very steep skew in the index, which really did indicate people were actively kind of accumulating hedges. That was in January and in February, and then kind of, it's really interesting, right? It was kind of prescient, right? They really did hedge into what turned out to be, a pullback, even though not a ginormous pullback, but it really seems like the hedges have been taken off. And I actually was talking to a couple other traders at the conference, and I'm like, so what do you think about this? Because when things are just that bullish, right, and people are just focused on the upside, and there was discussion about positioning and how the upside gamma was kind of a big kind of void. The traders I talked to were like, yeah, this is actually when I would start to get very nervous, because things have been, I guess, going well in this war that was a bit of a surprise, but it's far from over, and the amount of uncertainty, like you said, is kind of extreme, and yet people are absolutely plowing into equities. Probably it also feels a little bit like maybe they were underinvested, and when we really started to turn around, I mean, we're basically back to, I won't say it, but we are green, and we were at one point down about 5.5-6% year to date just a couple weeks ago, and we're not. There's no red out there at all right now. So, it's really pretty amazing times. I don't know what to say. It's great for the longs. It's kind of great it kind of backs up the thesis that we usually talk about, which is you really want to be invested in the market, and you can kind of certainly play around your positions and pick your spots, but a core long is really what's paying off over the last couple weeks for sure.
It's like when you're playing the craps table and someone keeps betting the horn high yo and winning, and you're like, what are you doing? But the market makes you look like a genius, and that's what's happening out there right now. I can't wait to talk to our buddy Dr. VIX on vol views tomorrow, because as dubious, as skeptical as I am of all this upside, he is 10x. I think he took off all of his SVIX heading into the weekend. He was so certain of a vol explosion over the weekend. So it is interesting stuff. Okay, I have delayed him long enough. The uncleist of mics, the floor is now yours. Say whatever you like, sir.
Never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than today. Exciting times, new all-time highs. We're actually up over 10% in the last 2.5 weeks. We were at the 6,300 level. We've had a 10% gain, over a 10% gain in the S&P 500 since Monday the 30th, when we were at the lows. You don't see that all the time, that's for sure. Gosh, I got to figure out something to say now that I actually said the thing I've been waiting to say for several days now. But in looking at this, a few things. There's a saying in football, and if you want to win a football game, your dudes got to be dudes. So in other words, your good players have to perform. And so what's happening in the marketplace in terms of where we've been over the course of the last this 2.5 week run, if you look at some individual stocks, if you look at Google, for example, Google bottomed out at 272. It's at 336 right now. If you look at a couple other stocks, Amazon, it was at 200 at the lows on March 30th. It's at 248 right now. It got up to 252 a couple days ago, actually. Microsoft's another one to where it was at 356. Now it's at 418. So I can just go on with this, but the stocks that got us to where we are the first time, and NVIDIA is another one. It was at 164 back on the 30th, and it's around the 200 level right now. So in football, if you want to win the game, your dudes got to be dudes. Your running back has to make the yards. Your receivers have to make the catches. Your quarterback has to make the throws. Your line has to make the blocks. Whoever your good players are, they have to perform. And in this case, over the course of the last couple of weeks, the market's dudes have been dudes, if you will. They've come through. These are the stocks that we've been counting on over the course of the last couple years to drive this market higher, and they have no question come through over the course of the last couple weeks. And looking at a couple other things from more of an inclusive level, if you will, silver has come up roughly $10 from 60 to 70 over the same time frame. It has pulled back, obviously, off of their highs from a few months ago, but silver has definitely had a run. Gold is up not quite 10%, but pretty close from where it was. So just looking at GLD. And then the thing that I think once earnings season is done in the near future, and once we get a little bit more clarity on what's happening with the war, the thing that I think we'll be talking about again will be interest rates. But we'll save that for around the block, but way around the block, because that's definitely something that is on the back burner for now. However, Trump is threatening to fire Powell now that with the investigation happening. So you never know. But I think interest rates will be very much in the news. We will be talking about them, but that's not going to be for a couple of months. We still have not had a ton of moves in the interest rate realm, so we didn't have any major flight to quality with any major sell-offs in the bond world. So that has been another thing that I have been following. But you know what? We have new all-time highs in the markets. Let's smile.
I hate to be that guy, but I might have to be that guy just to represent, as we could tell from the data we have from the lion's share of our audience, who were deeply skeptical of this market before all this popped off. I know you're a Super Bowl out there, but it was the only thing giving you pause about this market, just the fact that the bombs were literally dropping. And once the bombs dropped, just the talk of a ceasefire, as far as anyone could tell, I think we're still miles apart on any issues that are substantive. There's been a ton of damage in the Gulf. Crude is still up roughly 50% year. It seems like crude is still blockaded in the Gulf, not going to get anywhere for at least a month. All these issues apparently are unresolved. And yet just the hint of a ceasefire is enough in your mind to merit a 10% rally. I mean, maybe I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid enough. So tell me why the Kool-Aid tastes so good, Uncle Mike. I want to be that guy.
Oh, it is some delicious Kool-Aid, I got to say. I can barely taste the arsenic in it, right? But here's what actually concerned me about the market back in January, and people can listen to archive shows that I am backing up what I'm saying, so to speak. Over the course of the last 3 years, I just brought up a 3-year chart of the SPX. We were at, in May of 2023, which is roughly 3 years ago, we were at 4048. And this is just a random chart that I'm bringing up. And we touched 7,000 in, I believe it was late January of this year. So that means we rallied 75% over the course of roughly, give or take a month or two, a 2.5-year period. 75% rally. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what you feel about market. That's a big move. I don't care what's going on. That's a big move. And that was something that was concerning me. The war happening, actually, at first, the fact that we weren't plummeting into the abyss from the war, that made me think that, okay, maybe things aren't really that bad, and maybe this is just an excuse for a quick little pullback, just because of the fact that when we have oil going up like it has, when we have uncertainty of a war in the Middle East, and when we have, how do I put this? We have different messages being sent from the president at different times as negotiating ploys, as he puts it, then that's a lot of uncertainty. And the fact that we did not go down that much more, that kind of made me think that, okay, one thing that I was looking at, we didn't quite get a 10% pullback from the all-time highs in the S&P 500. I think we came down roughly 9.5%, but I was locked and loaded with rolling and modifying our hedges to take some profits if we would have gone down to the 10% level. So, I mean, I was very close with it. Unfortunately, I missed out on it by 0.5%, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But from my standpoint, me being the bull with which I am, I'm actually more comfortable with this market now that we've actually broken through the all-time highs and we have had this upside move. So I'm more comfortable with the market now than I was in early January because we have had a relative flush out, so to speak.
Interesting. I can see that. I think there's something to what you said too about the tonal shift was so stark between wipe out an entire civilization to what 24 hours later. Let's have a ceasefire. It was so stark that the relief was so palpable. People could do naught but buy stocks. I think probably some of that playing in there.
Well, yeah, and I think ultimately, from what he's a difficult nut to crack in terms of, I'm not trying to be political, but sometimes his rhetoric, it's hard to read into. But ultimately, a couple months ago, he has talked about wanting to control the Strait of Hormuz. And so if we'd have just gone in there on a mission to control the Strait of Hormuz and just do that, take it over or whatever, I'm not sure markets would have liked it that much. And I'm not sure it would have been as much of a thing. But the fact that we're number one, and I'm not trying to be political, but I do trust our intelligence and trust the president when he says we're trying to go in there to stop the nuclear weapons. And so just as an American, I would trust Biden too. I would trust Trump too, if they were to say that. But I think that was one thing that we did. But ultimately, I think that part of the end game of what he wanted with this strategy was to control the Strait of Hormuz in the first place. And that's why he said, well, you better open it, Iran. And then they don't open it. He's like, all right, we're taking it over. We'll be the ones in charge. And so it's kind of like, this feels just like either a negotiation in The Princess Bride when they're trying to do the Battle of Wits, or a Bugs Bunny Yosemite Sam negotiation in a lot of ways. And so far it seems to be working. So that's where we're at.
We all learn from The Princess Bride. Never have a battle of wits with a Sicilian when death is on the line, sir.
Of course.
And of course, if you kill someone's father, then you need to prepare to die yourself. I may or may not have taken up fencing in college solely because of that movie. And when I got to the fencing class, the first one, the instructor said, raise your hand if you're here because of The Princess Bride. And literally every person raised their hand. So yes, that's awesome. That one movie in and of itself contributed to a whole generation of sword fighting. But I digress. I'll stop being that guy now. Sometimes you just got to be a little bit of a devil's advocate out there. Mr. Flowmaster, save us from all this vitriol and this contentious analysis of the market and political talk. You were down there at RMC. Our listeners were not. You kind of hit on a couple of salient things. But RMC is always a fascinating event, at least the last time I went until they kicked me out. What's catching your eye out there in RMC land? What was the hot goss this year, sir?
One of the things really was kind of just the overwhelming shift in sentiment, because, as I said, we were there kind of as this rally, which really is kind of continuing today, was underway. There were kind of the standard panel discussions, how to hedge your left tail risk with controlled or even positive decay, which is kind of, to me, that's a little bit like the Holy Grail. But there are still a lot of very smart people that are pursuing that. I thought there was a very interesting conversation between JJ Kinahan on our team and a gentleman from Schwab, and he threw out some stats which I wrote down because I love any data we can collect. So Schwab mentioned that they have 48 million accounts, but only about half of those are true retail accounts. But the other half basically made up of RIA and like 401k style accounts. So, but they also said that they traded 2.5 billion option contracts last year. So, that actually was really helpful to me, because when we're talking about retail option flow, and most people would say, "Oh, well, Schwab, that's a retail broker," but knowing that basically a quarter of their activity is investment advisors, I wouldn't really count that as retail. And then you also have a lot of 401k accounts. Helps us kind of figure that out a little bit. There was a lot about flow and positioning, right? The stuff we love to talk about, big pockets of open interest and how best to identify areas of short gamma and long gamma, and just kind of what the market dynamics might be. And then one of the other very interesting things was a gentleman from a California-based hedge fund kind of talked about his opinion that 0DTE options were being sold without any real price sensitivity to the point where they were a bargain. He said he loves to buy the 0DTE continuously.
That is something I've been kind of wondering. We were talking about that for a while. We used to say that all the time, that options were oversold going into a weekend, so buying them on late Friday, you got a free weekend. I kind of wondered if some of that was going on in 0 day now as well, and sounds like the answer might be yes, sir.
Well, I mean, it has so much to do with your time horizon, right? Like, we know, some of the stories that are out there, Captain Condor, obviously those were being sold too cheap, and in the end it blew up, kind of like everybody expected, but it was pretty hard to figure out the timing on that. However, the fact that it ended up happening on Christmas Eve maybe wasn't that surprising. So it is really, really interesting, and 0DTE options, that is still a pretty new phenomena. That you only have about 780 trading days of daily cycles to analyze. That's a big difference from having 50 years of option data from the broad market. So, overall it was great. My colleague Ed Tom went through his VIX decomposition model. I know you've talked to Jeff on the show about that, and also went through some interesting analysis they're doing on the beta between VIX futures and VIX. So when and I'm sure Russell was paying a lot of attention to that, because that's when I was sitting next to him. If VIX goes up 10 points today, what will happen to the front term futures, and what goes into that, right? Because we're always kind of dealing with questions like, well, geez, VIX went up 10, but the futures only went up 3. What happened? And there's certain conditions where they go up 3, and there's certain conditions where they go up 7. And so Ed and his quant really went through that analysis as well. So it was a lot of fun. We did a little honky tonkin', and Cboe puts on a good party, and hopefully we can get you back in there, Mark.
How many boots and/or cowboy hats did you buy on the strip down there? Because the boots are like buy one get 6 down there, right? And the hat, same thing.
I got a pink sequined hat and brought my own boots.
All right, there we go. I'll let you enjoy that image of the Flowmaster in a pink sequined hat, listeners, as we break down some of the flow going on out there in the market today. Is it a spicy one? And you know what? The market likes when Uncle Mike can say his trademark phrase, because we are seeing some numbers. VIX was pretty much at 1 million contracts almost before the show even started. This is a wild day. 1.15 million contracts on the tape. That is well north of the ADV right now of 1.1 million. So seems like we are on fire today. Usually when something like that, we see that kind of volume, something's wild in the market, and we certainly did hit new all-time highs today, but also usually there's a big spread or something else going up, a big print to drive that. And it seems like the big print today is about 250,000 of the June 35s going up for prices around $1.10. This is the portion of the show where I would ask you if you want to buy or sell those, but Twitter polls appear to be broken. So I can't ask you. Well, we do have a poll up. It has 1 vote in it because I don't know what's going on with Twitter right now. So 100% of our 1 voter wants to buy them. Again, Twitter polls, something is funky there. We'll try to get to the bottom of that because we love our flash polls and our questions of the week. It's part of the fun. By the way, number 2 today, 113,000 of the May 37s. And number 3, 112,000 of the May 35s. Looks like it might be a bit of a May call vertical. If that's the case, that's a pretty tight one. 2 handles for it looks like about 6 cents. Hey, you do you if you love your broker that much. Let's go out to SPY. Is SPY a banger today? The answer is yes, 8.6 million. Exactly 4 million away from the ADV, which is 12.6 million. I got to imagine we're going to hit that unless, again, things really quiet down the second half of the session. And it seems like we're starting to tilt towards the red, so maybe that'll drive some more flow. The S, 3.6 million. The ADV, 5.25 million. Small caps, 1.25 million. The ADV, 2 million. And small caps, they're not waiting for anything. They have already turned red on the day now. So small caps, they like to do their own thing. Not much, off about 0.15%, but we'll see if that trend continues. And the Qs, a little over 5.5 million. The ADV is literally the number of the beast, 6.66 million. So they could probably hit that by the end of the show at this rate. So wild stuff afoot. Speaking of wild stuff, I know a lot of you tune in for the top 10, in which case you should be checking out the Hot Options Report. It is literally this as a show every day. And number 10, man, it is a spicy day out there. Cost you 459,000 contracts to break into the top 10 right now. That is the spiciest we've seen in a long time. We were barely at 300 just a show or two ago. So 459, that is 100,000 plus beyond our threshold for respectability at 350. 450 is a certified banger, so 459, definitely a banger. That gets you to Uncle Mike's core holding, which is SoFi. And I was joking about our live not too long ago about selling some 15.5 puts out there. And those were actually in the money for a little bit. I was kind of hoping I got the stock. Unfortunately, the stock rallied, and it has continued rallying way past that 15.5 strike. 19.14 up another 34 cents or nearly 2% today. So I wouldn't have minded picking up some stock at right around 15.25, 15.20, wherever the heck I sold those puts. But I'll take my premium, I guess. But SoFi on the rampage. Number 9, it's Oracle. This one has been a fascinating one to watch as well. Of course, we all know the story. If listening to the Hot Options Report, you definitely know it. Blew past the par strike 300. Recent earnings got up to, I think, around 350. Everyone that same day was loading up on par puts with 2 days to go. It seemed like a wild trade. Sure enough, those paid off. They paid off, I think, to the tune of about $8. Absolutely wild period. And then Oracle continued to fall out of bed pretty much ever since until recently. Let's see, how low did they get in the nadir? They got down to about 136, 137. Just in the last 5 sessions, they're up 30%. So that gives you some sense of what's going on, including another $8.50 today, or about 5% to 178.21. So apparently all is right with Oracle again. Number 9, 487. Number 8, it's the Amazonians, up 32 cents, trading 248.82. They actually got shellacked earlier in the session and have now rebounded. So they got as low as 244.20. So a little bit of an opposite reaction to the rest of the market out there in Amazon today. Nonetheless, number 8, 565. Number 7, this name. I mean, I joke about this as my old stomping grounds, but this is unlike anything I've seen out there. This is Intel. Number 7, 579. Obviously, it was at $20. I said this many times before they went hat in hand to Washington. We all own a piece of Intel now. The stock rallied. We saw a lot of action in the 60 handle and some of the options. Stock got up to around 50 odd, I think, then fell out of bed, got back to about the 40 handle, I believe, on March 30th. And then since then has rallied over 50%, trading 67.80 today, up another nearly $3 or 4.4%. This rise in Intel has been nothing short of meteoric. I mean, they're a partnership with Google, I believe. Whenever Google sprinkles that pixie dust, it seems to work out. They're also saying the magic letters of AI. Look how that worked out for CoreWeave, and now apparently 50+% for Intel. Absolutely wild. 579. I am also starting to see some headlines, people saying this move has been just insane. Analysts are really going to expect them to knock the cover off the ball at their earnings. So can they deliver? I guess we'll see. But right now, their stock has delivered to the tune of 50% in just about less than a month. Wild stuff out here. Number 6, Mr. Softy. They're back north of 400 again. So if you were sweating out there, you're feeling a little bit better in Microsoft right now. 419 exactly, up nearly $8 or about 2%. Good for number 6, 775. Number 5, it's our old pal Netflix, up about a quarter today, trading 107.94, putting up 901. Again, we're at number 5. We're already at 900,000 out there. We are heading into earnings for Netflix, so that's probably driving a lot of that flow. Number 4 is the fruit company. This has been another fascinating one to watch over this last week and 10 days or so. As we declared this ceasefire, the market's been off to the races, and then Apple kind of doing its own thing. Days in market can't get enough rallying. Apple's selling off. The days in the market's kind of tepid. Apple's rallying. Apple's been an interesting one to watch. Today, they are selling off again, off $3 to 263.40, putting up nearly 1 million contracts for the fruit company. Number 3, AMD, another wild one that had been just unhinged over the last week or so. 276, up nearly $18 or 7% again. Just today. This is their longest winning streak since 2005. I mean, absolutely wild. 15% over the past 5 days. 40% or 80 handles over the last month. AMD, number 3, 1.0. I mean, absolutely wild. Wild stuff out here. Number 2, NVIDIA. They're not that far away from their all-time highs as well. 198.14, actually selling off $0.50 today. Their all-time high is 212.19. Can they get back there? I guess we shall see. Nearly 2 million contracts on the tape for them. And the big dog yet again, Tesla's been putting up some numbers of late. Over 6 million yesterday. I'm not sure if they're going to hit that today, but 2.01 million. Of course, Musk whispered the magical letters of AI yesterday, and that usually translates to a lot of upside and a lot of volume. We saw that yesterday, giving a little bit back today, off $4 or about 1% exactly, trading 388 exactly right now. So also the bulls will note well north of that 350 level they were at not too long ago. So interesting stuff. 2.01 million for Tesla. All right, we are coming up again. So we had a lot of fun talking markets here. So you can check out our earnings data for yourself. If you did that, you would see we had a lot of financials earlier in the week. We have today after the bell, Netflix and Alcoa, if you're down for a little bit of a rolled aluminum vol. Before the bell, we had Travelers and Citizen and Chucky Schwab. Chucky Schwab saying, making some interesting announcements out here this morning as well. So we'll see. They're trying to horn in on the hood action, getting a little bit of crypto in the game. So also had Abbott Labs before the bell. And then tomorrow after the bell, we have Ally and State Street and a couple other banks going off after the bell yesterday. If you want to see all that data for yourself, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. Now it's time for us to delay no further. The Flowmaster is champing at the bit. He didn't get a chance to do it last week, so he wants to dive on into a little bit of the old Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get down to business. And we know business is good right now in the defense sector. So let's kick it off there. Let's kick it off in a name that is active in that space. That is a newcomer to the program and indeed to the network. This is Merlin Inc., ticker symbol Merlin, MRLN, trading $16.19 today, up $1.90. So they are popping hot out there today. If you're wondering what is this name, this is an aerospace and defense company developing AI-powered autonomous flight software. So very much the sweet spot of what's going on right now. So autonomous drones, that's not Skynet at all. On the year, this has been a fascinating name to watch because it was locked at $10 for the entirety of the year. This chart looks like there might be some takeover action in this name, or maybe it was locked in a takeover or some sort of merger, then it fell apart because then the stock on March 9th fell to about $7.68. Then it rocketed north again to $13.50 on March 25th. Then it fell to its absolute low on April 7th. My goodness, they shellacked it to $5.88. If you scooped that low, congrats to you, because you are now nearly 3x to the upside because it has just exploded since April 6th up to where it is right now, $16.19 out there. So absolutely wild. Looks like they are getting listed in the NASDAQ. So that would certainly give a little bit of a lift to the stock out there. Doesn't explain why it was locked at $10 for the entirety of the year. But maybe the Flowmaster, this is his name. It's got two magical buzzwords, Mr. Flowmaster. It's got drones and it's got AI. So no wonder why the stock's up 3x in the last couple of weeks. What caught your eye, sir?
Yeah, this definitely is an odd block in so many ways, and there's no options listed on Allbirds, but that is the name. I assume you talked about it on Monday when they changed from shoes to AI or something, and stock exploded higher. I actually have some of their shoes. The shoes are pretty good, but so the reason this was $10 was it was a SPAC. Remember during COVID we had these names where they'd raise money.
Yes.
And basically it would sit at $10 because that was the amount of capital they raised per share, and they'd go out looking for companies to buy. And so looking at the news, they finally combined a couple months ago, maybe not even that long ago, with this space drone business, and that's now what the business is. But it's only had options listed for since April 8th. So today is, I think, the seventh or eighth day of options trading. And when a stock is new, especially something like this, where it effectively was a private company, and then all of a sudden it's available to trade, nobody has any clue. The valuation, fine, people do a lot of work with that, but where the volatility should be, what kind of upside skew or downside skew you should see, it's all kind of a crapshoot. So, but what's also very interesting is the trade that I wanted to dig into took place just now, like while we were on the air at 1:30 exactly, and it was a buyer of 1,300 of the May 20 calls, paying $1.20. Stock was at 16.11. So, and as you said, the stock's up pretty strong today. And also, I don't know what it was doing down around $7 or $8 recently, but it did get an upgrade as well. And as you mentioned, if it's going into the Nasdaq index, there's a lot of people that play that kind of angle for inclusion as a buying opportunity. But so the trade is pretty simple. It's at the 20 strike. It's an opening buyer of 1,300 of these calls for $1.20. And I bought a little stock because I was like, well, I don't know what's going on in here. It's certainly a super vol name. I wouldn't want to be very big in it. But it is the biggest chunk of open interest in there on the call side. There's a couple thousand. The 5-strike puts are open, and there's 1,900 of the October 12.5 calls. Those might go together, actually. Just one worth watching, and possibly worth a little long. I'm gonna stay in it for a little while at least. Probably, if I can make
one reason to short the heck out of this. The name is Merlin. It has nothing to do with magic or wizards at all, sir. So I'm deeply disappointed on that. If they were making AI wizards, I'd be long the heck out of this thing. But
you can sell it if you want. I think it's pretty hard to borrow. It looks to me like the implied rate is around 50%. So maybe we should have just done an OTC trade. I'll buy it from you.
I'm just here for the wizards, sir. Forget about your space AI drones. I want wizards. All right, let's keep. Oh, by the way, you had a little clarification you wanted to add really quickly on that VIX upside. You want to add it, sir?
Oh yeah. So yeah, there's a couple very large blocks in VIX. As you mentioned, it's got the call volume so high. It looks to me like a buyer that the June 35 calls were bought for $1.11. I can see that in the open close data. But I think they're rolling out of the May 35-37 call spread. So I think basically it's a long VIX call position, possibly simply a hedge for a long portfolio. That was discussed at RMC as well. When you want to buy VIX calls versus when you want to buy just SPX puts, because both will do well for you in a crisis or a crash. But in that case, I believe that's what happened, because it all traded right before 10 a.m. New York time as a package.
Gotta love those 2-point wide verticals in VIX. They really pay off spectacularly. Someone loves their broker, but I digress. Let's keep rolling. Let's go out to we got newcomers for days out here. That's part of the fun. The Flowmaster comes armed with some fun ones, including Compass Therapeutics Inc., ticker symbol CMPX, CMPX, trading $6.50 today, up 66 cents or a little over 11%. So a good day for them. On the year, it's been a banger. There's apparently a lot of therapy going on out there, because they're up nearly $5 or almost 300% on the year. It has been mostly straight up. Looks like they did peak, though, at nearly $7, $6.88 on about February 4th. Then they sold off again. Obviously, the big sell-off kind of dragged down everything, including this name. They sold off to, looks like, about $5. Hung out there for a little while, and over the last week, they are up, or pretty much over the last week, they're up about 30% or $1.50 to $6.50 right now. But Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot in yet another explosive newcomer, Compass Therapeutics?
I have mentioned before that I really like kind of paying attention to option flow in biotech names, because they're crazy stocks, right? They're almost like binary event stocks sometimes, because If they get a drug approved, the stock can triple, and if the drug gets if the trial is a failure, that can go to zero on you very quickly. But in my experience, the option flow is pretty smart. And so what I actually noticed in this name, today is 15 times the average daily option volume in this thing, 53,000 contracts total. I don't think it's ever traded this actively. And the other thing that stood out is volatility is up about 30 points to 300 and something. So tells you that this is actually up even more than that. It's up 100 points in the kind of the longer dated. So super volatile name. I don't know if there's a trial coming due anytime soon or not, but the volume is mostly in the calls. It's 40,000 calls versus 10,000 puts, and it involves a big structure, which was the May 710 1x2 call spread. There's a customer that bought that 5,000 by 10,000. So buying 5,000 May 7 calls and selling the May 10s twice as many, meaning that they're effectively, I like to think of those as simply they're long the 710 call spread and they're selling an additional 10. So, max profit comes if the stock goes right to $10 and stops. But it jumps out as such a big trade. And then there's also pretty big trade in the May, it looks like the May 510 strangle. So kind of right around the stock with the stock in the $7 range. And even though that trade on the bid, I'm pretty sure it's a buyer of both as well. So just kind of a hot name with a lot of activity suggesting that somebody's looking for something. And that 1x2 kind of makes it look like it's an upside, but you'll notice they only had to pay a quarter for that spread, which could be worth $3 if we go right to 10. So that's a nice risk reward there, but it does have that kind of unlimited loss potential because of the extra 5,000 of the short calls. That is what got the price down to be so low. But basically another one to watch, and I've never heard of this name myself, but I will be. It's on my radar now.
Let's get out to this one because this one actually came across my radar. I happened to notice this yesterday. We were just doing some analysis, and this one kind of flew across my screen. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on out there. And I made a note to maybe investigate it a little bit further, maybe talk about it on Oddities this week. What is it? It's Lucid Group, listeners. We were talking earlier in the show about this massive relief rally that has lifted everything. We just talked about a bunch of names that are up 30% or more, 3x in the last week to 10 days, something like that. Kind of reversed that for Lucid. They've been getting shellacked lately. They're off 61 cents or 7.5% today, trading 760. Over the last 5 days, while the market has been shooting north, they're off nearly 14%. And over the last year, they're off $15.5 or 67%. So an absolutely wild run out here in Lucid. And I did make a mental note to maybe take another look at Lucid. And it sounds like the Flowmaster got that note. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what'd you spot here in Lucid?
I guess I got it like mentally from you.
Yes, I sent the beams your way.
We both just ended up on it. Lucid's an interesting name, right? You do see the cars driving around. They're nice looking vehicles. I think they cost even more than Teslas. But that stock is really beaten up. I mean, it's trading around 760 today, and the 52-week range, which I think is the new 52-week low, and the high just last July was 3130. So, I think people talk about how Tesla is kind of held up because people want to own Tesla because they want to own Elon. They want to own some of the companies that Tesla's has a piece of, whether it's SpaceX or Grok or everything else that goes on. And it's really not about the car company. But in Lucid, it does look like a bullish trade. So maybe somebody kind of thinks it's gonna bounce from this point. So the total volume is twice normal, 48,000 calls and 34,000 puts. The stock volume itself is running about 4 times normal as well. So it's traded 30 million shares, and the average stock volume itself by this time of day is only 6 million. The option trades that stand out to me is looks like a cross of 6,500 of the SEP 7 puts for $1.48, which looks like a seller to me. So and it is an opening trade, so that could be kind of a line in the sand. It's a pretty chunky piece of premiums trading at 92 vol. So, they're okay basically down to the stock, around 5.5. They'll still kind of break even at that. And that was at 11:30 this morning when the stock was 747. So, stock's actually at 759 right now. And then the other trade was a little bit earlier, and it was a buyer of 4,100 of the July 10 calls in a big multi-market sweep. They paid 61 cents, and that's also opening. That sweep had 51 legs to it, and it touched all 18 exchanges in 3 milliseconds, which is the way this market structure works now. They're obviously using a very sophisticated router to be able to hit every exchange in 3 milliseconds. And what's really kind of interesting is I was talking to a quant at a bank one time, and he said, well, it's not even 3 milliseconds. It's nanoseconds, but the way that Opera works, things end up looking like things they traded a few milliseconds apart. So, and when we see a trade like that, what it means is somebody wanted everything they could get. Looks like there were only 700 showing on the best offer when they paid, when they were able to sweep that many around that. So, I don't know if I'm going to go in and buy any of that one. Kind of as we've all been talking about, this run up is really, really been a very fast move. It's easy to get sucked into it and be like, oh, I wasn't long enough. I got to pour some more money into the market. But, as Mike said, we're 10% higher than we were just a few weeks ago. So, the buying opportunity might have passed. If you're going to put anything into along here, I would maybe kind of put it in small slices.
There you go. Our chat obviously intrigued by Lucid as well, so maybe we'll have to come back to this one on Options Oddities on Friday. But now it's time for us to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everyone, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until the next show, and it's kind of hard to see anything else other than the headline-by-headline madness that's going on out there right now. It seemed like the rally was fading. Now it looks like it's kind of hanging out pretty much where it was again. S&P up about 0.1%, the Dow up about 0.5%, NASDAQ up about 0.2%, and VIX Cash coming back to earth a little bit, down a little bit shy of 18.5, about 1840. So that puts it down about 1/3 of a point from where it was at the start of the show. Mr. Uncle Mike, I gave you time to exercise your buy-in finger while Henry and I were breaking down some flow. What's on your radar until the Monday show, sir?
I mean, I think for this stage, it's just headlines, and more headlines. I don't see what can, no pun intended, I don't know what can trump the headlines right now. I saw something come out. I think there's a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon now. So there's just, it's always something new every day. What an exciting time to live.
The old Chinese blessing/curse. May you all live in interesting times. And we are certainly living through those right now. Mr. Flowmaster, same question. What are you keeping an eye on until you join us next week? Will it be a blood red Thursday or will it be another super green Thursday, Mr. Flowmaster?
I think the curse might be broken. So, we do have earnings. We have Netflix after close today, and Taiwan Semi was this morning. So there's plenty going on. I think the macro picture, as Mike mentioned, you can't ignore it. We are seeing some weird stuff, right? Like, today, oil is up 4%, but the market seems to be fine. VIX is kind of flat. There's a big kind of shuffling of capital around, and there are some serious headline risks out there, which I think is kind of keeping everybody on pins and needles, I guess. Hopefully things get resolved and we can all just kind of have a mellow summer, but it doesn't quite feel like it's setting up for that. So trying to watch as much as I can, I guess.
If you want a mellow summer, we got the wrong administration for that, I think. Not a lot of mellow action going on right now. But you know what? If you like a little action, it's ironic. This is exactly what people expected back in 2016. And instead, we got the year of the death of VIX. And now I guess he's making up for lost time out there. Speaking of lost time, listeners, that's all the time we got for the OB this Thursday. But if you need more in your lives, you need more analysis of this wild market, I can think a few people better to do that than our buddy coming up next on TWIFO. Yeah, we called out the big guns. Dan the Man Gramza will be joining us. Is he going to give the big adios to this rally? I guess we'll find out on TWIFO in a little bit. But before we get there, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to contact you to discuss maybe membership in your bullish cabal, where should they go? What should they do?
Go to stcharleswealth.com, book an appointment with me. Always happy to have a conversation with any of the listeners from the Options Insider Radio Network.
There you go. Check him out, stcharleswealth.com. He can teach you the secret handshake that gets you into the cabal. And Mr. Flowmaster, sir, where should folks go if they want to keep up with all the cool stuff you're doing over there at Cboe, including maybe check out one of your presentations?
Well, if you go to the Cboe handle on X, and you can actually watch my full half-hour State of the Industry from RMC. It's posted there. We had about 6,000 live viewers, and I think I'm up to 90,000 impressions. So help me get that over, I don't know, 1 million or something. But just head over to Cboe.com for everything that we have, and Cboe.com/RMA is where you can check out our platforms and data sets. There's a lot of great content at Cboe.com, so please come visit.
Get the Flowmaster over 100,000. Then we could all say we knew him when. Flowmaster, really hot with the kiddies these days. Check him out over there on the Cboe Twitter, or, of course, Cboe.com/RMA. I see our chat asking for kind of an EV trifecta tomorrow on Oddities. They want Lucid, they want Rivian, and Neo. Well, you know what? It's your show. Ask and you shall receive, so we can do that tomorrow. So look for a little bit of EV options action coming up tomorrow on Options Oddities after Vol Views. If you want to check that out and a whole bunch of other trades that we didn't have a chance to get to on the Odd Block today, check it out, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Back again in a few minutes with our good buddy Dan the Man Gramza. Back again after the closing bell to break down this wild day in the market over there on Thor, a.k.a. The Hot Options Report. Then we're back tomorrow. I got a feeling Dr. VIX is going to have a few things to say about this market. So tune in to Vol Views. Should be fun, maybe a little spicy. We'll have some other special guests. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Oddities. And then we'll wrap up the week on another little taste of Thor. Before we're back again on Monday, can Uncle Mike continue his trivia extravaganza, or will the Rock Lobster battle back? I think we're tied now, which makes it even more exciting. Check it out over there on the Monday show. And until then, stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.